Terraria is a game which prides itself on its many varieties of weapons. You can use swords, spears, guns, bows, wands, tombs. You can even summon minions to take down your foes. But there is one weapon that goes overlooked: the yo-yo. That's right, a toy for children in this game can be used as a weapon of mass destruction. So what would happen if we were to only use the yo-yo to beat Terraria's Calamity mod? In this video, my friend Josh and I are going to try just that. In this video, we will be going over the first third of the game, pre-hard mode. If you enjoy the video, feel free to leave a like and maybe even subscribe. It helps more than you would think. Now, without further ado, enjoy the video. We start off our adventure by opening our starter bag and cutting down some trees. We then make some wooden armor and some insta-houses. Insta-houses are from the Fargo's Mutant mod and will give us a quick place to store our NPCs. Now, as the sun sets, we get started on our elevator to avoid the monsters of the night. This will also be useful later on so we can get down to hell easier. Down in the underground, we have a few things we're looking for: Hermes boots, a pair of boots that allow us to run insanely fast, a cloud in a bottle, which will give us the ability to double jump, a magic mirror, which allows us to teleport home at any time, heart crystals to boost our maximum HP, ores and gems for various things such as armor, a grappling hook, and components for the magic storage mod. A mod that will aid in keeping our base far more organized, and most importantly, the Skeleton Merchant. The Skeleton Merchant is an NPC that sells various accessories made for yo-yos, like the yo-yo glove and the counterweight. While exploring the underground, we found spider webs. In a normal playthrough, this wouldn't mean a whole lot, but these webs allow us to make the wooden yo-yo. Now the challenge has officially started. In the mines, we found a magic mirror, cloud in a bottle, and a few life crystals. We then ventured the desert in hopes to find an extractinator. The extractinator is very useful as it can turn blocks like silt and desert fossils into ores and gems. After a half hour of looking and lots of beast statues, we finally found it, along with 2 sets of Dune Rider boots, which worked the same as Hermes boots. Now, we are able to make the magic storage unit, a place where we could conveniently store our items and craft within the interface. This keeps us from turning a floor of our house into a war zone of chests, making it a must-have for any playthrough. Using the excess ores and gems, we were also able to make gold armor, gold pickaxes, and 2 gem hooks. Now, with our new gear, we were able to take on the jungle to make our second yo-yo, the Amazon. This yo-yo doubles our damage from 9 to 18, but in turn is much more difficult to make. To craft the Amazon, we need 8 rich mahogany wood, which we could chop from trees, 12 stingers, dropped from hornets and spiked jungle slimes, a vine from man-eaters, and 9 jungle spores, which are found throughout the jungle. And that would only craft 1. Since Josh is also joining us in this challenge, we need double all of those materials. And so we started the treacherous journey, killing everything we had to from afar. After making our new weapons, we returned home and were greeted by a blood moon. Fighting this blood moon showed us how powerful our new yo-yo was. With all of our upgrades, we felt ready to fight our first boss, the Desert Scourge. The Desert Scourge is a worm boss that resides in the desert. By building a platform with the arena builder, we were able to stay above most of his attacks, making this fight a breeze. The boss dropped an item called the Ocean Crest, which would allow us to breathe underwater. This, in turn, gave us access to the Sunken Sea, a water wasteland that resides just below the desert. Using materials found in this biome, we could make a new yo-yo called the Riptide. While this yo-yo didn't do as much damage as our Amazon, the Riptide lit out a whirlpool effect, which makes it great for crowd control. Next, we felt ready enough to take on our first vanilla boss, the Eye of Cthulhu. Despite how many hours each of us have in Terraria, the fight still went down to the wire due to the changes in boss behavior added by our mods. But the Eye was no match for the power of our yo-yos, and it too fell. The Eye dropped one of the best accessories we could ask for this early in the game, the Shield of Cthulhu. This shield allowed us to dash away from attacks, as well as into enemies for a good bit of damage. The Eye falling also gave us access to Crimtane bars, which allowed us to make not only upgrades to our magic storage, but also make a new yo-yo. This new yo-yo was called the Artery. With our new yo-yo, we went back down to the Sunken Sea to take on the giant clam, a mini-boss added by Calamity, which would give us access to a new NPC. This NPC isn't much use to us at the current moment, but it's better to get him now rather than later when the clam is buffed. Now back to our boss rush. In Terraria, Each world has an evil biome of either corruption or the Crimson. These biomes give the world access to loot and bosses exclusive to each biome. Our world got cursed with the Crimson, which made the next boss on our checklist the Brain of Cthulhu. So we broke a couple of Crimson Hearts, and the Brain was summoned. The first stage of this boss had us killing 25 Brain Creepers, which was a breeze using our Riptide. After this, the Brain summons 3 clones of itself which dash at you. With the speed at which the Brains were coming at us and the little damage of the Yoyos, we eventually fell. On our second attempt at this boss, we also died. We were clearly not ready for this boss. Thinking back on our defeat, we realized there was one thing we were missing in our preparation: potions. The Louis AFK mod adds a neat feature which allows potion buffs to be permanent at all times if you have 30 of them in your inventory. This also works in our piggy bank inventory. So after grabbing a few useful effects, we went back to the Crimson for our third battle with the Brain. Now I don't know if our win was because of the potions or sheer luck, but this time the Brain was defeated. Killing the Brain gave us access to a new pickaxe which would let us mine Hellstone, a material that would give us a whole new set of armor which we would use for most of the next bosses. After mining more Hellstone than we would ever need, I combined it with Obsidian to make us Hellstone armor, drastically boosting our defense. Upon getting this armor, we decided to take on the Queen Bee for a yo-yo upgrade, so off to the jungle we went. After locating a beehive, we made a quick arena and faced off against the Queen. The Queen Bee's 2 attacks are pretty simple. Her first is that she dashes at you, which you can dodge pretty easily by jumping. And the second, she sits above you and shoots a mix of small bees and stingers at you. Overall, the fight was pretty easy. At least, it should have been. After getting the bee down to just 138 health, we both died. Our second attempt of the bee went much better, at least for one of us. While I barely dropped below 3/4 health, Josh died a few times. I guess Terraria challenges are hard when you suck at the game. Upon killing the bee, we were able to craft our next yo-yo, the Hive 5, which upon damaging an enemy would let out a swarm of bees, which did massive damage. With our new yo-yos in hand, we went back to the Crimson to take on our next boss, the Perforator Hive. While Terraria adds a boss designed for each area, Calamity takes it a step further, adding another boss which mimics the boss from the Otherworld evil. So we set up a small platform and destroyed a Perforator cyst which summoned the Hive. The Hive was a fairly simple boss fight. We take out a third of its health, it summons a worm to attack us, rinse and repeat, and after a few minutes of fighting, the Hive had fallen. Thankfully, the Perforator Hive ended up dropping us both our own new yo-yos, called the Aorta, so we didn't have to fight it again. Killing the Perforator Hive allowed us to mine Aerialite ore, a blue ore that spawns up in the floating islands above the worlds. While mining this new ore, a goblin army spawned. With our powerful yo-yos, this fight was over just as quickly as it started. Taking out this event gave us access to a new NPC called the Goblin Tinkerer. The Goblin Tinkerer is one of the most useful NPCs, giving us access to rocket boots to fly, and the Tinkerer's Workshop, which allows us to combine some of our accessories, giving us room to add more. Using these, we were able to upgrade our Dune Rider boots to the best available boots we could, Terraspark boots. These boots gave us abilities such as super fast running, the ability to walk on ice, and a little bit of fire resistance, and best of all, flight. After crafting the boots, we ventured back up to the sky and gathered enough materials to make a new yo-yo called the Air Spinner. This yo-yo shoots out feather projectiles, making it by far one of our best yo-yos. Using the rest of our materials, we were able to craft 2 pairs of Skyline wings. These wings would increase our flight time and also grant us immunity to fall damage. We then decided to take on the King Slime, which should have honestly been one of our first bosses, but we forgot about him. The King Slime's attack pattern is very easy to understand. He jumps at you. If he touches you, he hurts you. Yeah, that's it. We fought him a few times to get his mount, the Slimy Saddle, which allowed us to fall at very high speeds. In the spirit of fighting bosses that we should have fought a long time ago, we also took out Crabulon, a giant crab that spawns in the glowing mushroom biome. The crustacean was a giant pushover which took us less than 30 seconds to kill. It didn't give us much use. Our final challenge before continuing progression was the Old One's Army. The Old One's Army is a wave-style battle where we have to protect a crystal from hordes of enemies. This is easily one of the most creative and fun events in the entire game. Now, it's time to continue forward with one of our hardest challenges yet, Skeletron. Skeletron is the protector of a structure on the far left of the map called the dungeon. He is, as his name implies, a skeleton that flies and shoots skulls from his mouth. To defeat Skeletron, we first have to take out his hands, then we can focus his head. Although Calamity adds a phase where his hands come back and you have to defeat those once again. Overall, Skeletron wasn't a difficult fight at all. Maybe Yoyos only isn't as hard as we thought. The death of Skeletron left us with 2 more bosses in pre-hard mode, first of which being the Slime God. The Slime God is a ball of slime that is accompanied by 2 other giant slimes which represent the world evils. The Slime God periodically takes control of either slime, allowing it to attack faster and do more damage. Once either slime gets to half health, it will split into 2 smaller slimes, which move even faster, but in turn have less health. While the fight was difficult, it was no match for the power of our Yoyos. The death of the Slime God allowed us to make our final Yoyos and armor. We crafted the God's Gambit in 2 full sets of Statagel armor, and began preparing for our last challenge. We made our way down to hell and started making a long platform from one side of the world to the other. After finishing our bridge and getting all of our last minute items, it was time for Terraria pre-hard mode's magnum opus, the Wall of Flesh. The Wall of Flesh has a very simple fight. The wall moves horizontally towards you and shoots lasers. As the wall loses more and more health, it gets faster and faster. The wall's concept seems very simple, but trust me, this fight is not made with Yoyos in mind. The usual strategy for taking down the Wall of Flesh is to keep your distance, so as to have more time for dodging lasers. But with the limited range of the Yoyos, we had to stay right up next to the wall, making this an incredibly challenging boss fight. The fight took us many attempts, but eventually, we were able to pull through and take down the Wall of Flesh. This video was super fun to make and something I've been thinking about doing for a long time, so if you enjoyed it, please be sure to leave a thumbs up and let me know if you'd like to see more. Also be sure to let me know anything else you want to see, whether it be another Terraria challenge or a new game altogether. All feedback is appreciated. Thank you so much for watching until the end, and I'll see you in the next video.